Let's get into the set list. Tuan, what do we got? What's the first item on the set list tonight?
So there's a pretty good headline that I saw, actually in a few different publications online, but it stemmed from a Rolling Stone article. But basically, here's the headline. Glenn Danzig says modern punk explosion won't happen due to cancel culture and woke bullshit. So I read a few of the articles. I didn't read the interview in Rolling Stone, but I read a few of the articles. And basically, he says a couple things that people don't understand because everything's so cancel culture, woke bullshit nowadays, but you could never have the punk explosion now. It would have never happened. We're lucky it happened when it did because it'll never happen again. You won't have any of those kinds of bands ever again. So his era, obviously, early 80s, Misfits, you could throw Black Flag in there, that whole American punk hardcore and adjacent lane. The other thing he also says is the song Last Caress. That I don't know if you guys are familiar with that song. It's a song that has like super questionable and sketchy lyrics that he's saying that would never have been accepted today. So I have two thoughts on this, and he's saying like two conflicting things in my eyes. He mentions that the punk explosion wouldn't happen now, right? And I think that's complete bullshit because of woke culture. What he's talking about, like that whole explosion, is on the right side, not like right in political terms, but it's on the right side of wokeness. Like they're fighting, the people that are quote unquote woke fit that narrative of the punk scene. Like, I don't know, like channeling back to Frank Turner with the Get in the Van book, they were fighting off Nazi skinheads at shows. Like they were the ones that were woke against that. So like I think he's just complete off his rocker there. And then but I do agree with a song like Last Caress. That would not be accepted. The message, the lyrics wouldn't be accepted. But I think he's he's flipping it. He's talking about two conflicting things. I think he's right on one, wrong on the other.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think he's wrong on both ends, to be honest. And it's ultimately because it's music and it's art. I mean, if that was the case, then Quentin Tarantino would just stop making films. The whole point is it's supposed to be shock, right? It's supposed to be, not so PC. So same with music, you're going to attract a certain crowd and you might get some haters, but I mean, that's always happened, I don't think Eminem, we talked about Eminem on here with like the Slim Shady LP, the Marshall Mathers LP and some cringeworthy songs on that. And I guess to Danzig's point, like that came out in 2000, where it's 2021 now. Could, Marshall Mathers write a song like that today? I mean, he has. So I think the point is, yes, because you're an artist and you kind of do whatever you want to freedom of expression. If you get haters, whatever, it is what it is. I think there is an overcorrection when it comes to being PC and being woke and making sure that you're not offending anyone. But at the end of the day, like you can't please everyone. And that's what music is. It's, you cater to a crowd that accepts you, and you might have some haters, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I agree, Tuan, with your initial sentiment of the punk scene back in that era being kind of the first wokeness of the whole music world back then. Anyway,
yeah,
there was probably late 70s, all that kind of classic rock stuff that we call classic rock today, and disco, right? All of that stuff was just, I'm sure there was some stuff behind the scenes that we've heard about. Some of it we haven't heard about, others that was just terrible and not great. And you get punk happening and you get them fighting off the, skinheads, Nazis, whatever, and being out against that and not saying what Danzig is saying. Now, the Last Caress stuff, yeah, I don't think you can. I just looking at the lyrics just now for the first time in my life and thinking, whoa, yeah, you're not writing that song today. Not in that vein, not with punk, and it's not gonna be big. There are some metal bands that would write that today.
Death metal bands, yeah.
Death metal bands that would write that today, right? So that's and probably be okay with it. Like Cannibal Corpse comes to mind. Like they just put an album out that I'm sure something like that's on there. So it is what it is. It depends on what you like Nate said, and who's down with whatever. Now, obviously, there's some things you just shouldn't say and shouldn't do, and there are definitely things today in 2021 that you can't say anymore. And you're not going to have a lot of people flocking to your music if you are saying those things. So that's obviously a piece of it. But I still think that you can have this. There could be a modern, even more contemporary punk explosion again, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny. Like he mentions Last Caress, but like that was an exception of that era. You know what I mean? That wasn't the mess. That wasn't the Black Flag rise above message. Like that was a small pocket of it. So I think he's kind of lost in his own world. But what's interesting is some notable bands have covered that song. Like Metallica, I think it was on Garage. Was it on the Garage Inc. cover album or live
Oh
album?
yeah, right.
NoFX covered it, which doesn't surprise me. AFI covered it, but I don't know how recent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The climate's so different even from 5 years ago to now that it wouldn't surprise me if those bands covered it that recent or if it was many, many, many years ago. I think Metallica's case, it was many, many years ago. But yeah, this stirred up some buzz online. Like there were the Danzig fanboys that were like, yeah, he's so right. And others like, this guy's out of touch with reality. Like, but I will say, I didn't see anyone with my initial take, which is like, no, like the wokeness, like that would have been them back then. You know what I mean? Like that was the message. That was a fun one. I mean, I don't think we'll hit too much more on that one, but yeah, Glenn Danzig. I guess that's what it takes for him to hit the news nowadays.
He finds his way in every now and then.